A hall I see that no sunlight reaches. On Nastrond the doors face northward. Through its smoke vent venom drips. Serpent skins in scheme the hall. Men wade there, tormented by the stream. Vile murderers, men forsworn. Welcome to episode 18 of the Vikings and Valkyries podcast. Venturing into the well of fate are Josh, Jeremy, Steve, Bill, CJ, and Taylor. Welcome to you all, Black Swans of Battle.
Hi.
Woohoo. Hello.
Now, we have two new guests with us today, and we are delighted to welcome Josh Heath, who is the COO of High Level Games. He's also known as the Heathen Philosopher, a U.S. Army veteran who helped convince the Department of Defense to add several religious preferences to their list, including heathen. So, Josh, that's a feat in itself. Tell us about how you overcame barriers to have that embraced as an official religion.
It was a pretty long process. It took us about 8-9 years all told, and multiple rounds of congressional requests and getting the news involved. And finally, we had to petition the Department of Defense Chaplains Corps directly. We had several meetings with high-level generals, and we're like, we're not weird, we're not crazy. This is actually a religious belief, and we'd like you to recognize it. And they ended up pausing all additions to the list for about 5 years until they had a plan that was going to go out through the entire Department of Defense, and they included all of the requests that I helped put into their list of things to add in that process. So it was definitely interesting.
It's gratifying to hear that you've managed to find your way through that bureaucracy. And you've also published a whole bunch of game-related stuff like Snowhaven and Army Men. Anything there that is going to stand you in good stead for the adventure ahead today?
You know, Army Men's a little bit similar to this in that it's about warfare, but as little plastic army men in a world full of plastic bugs and other plastic people. So maybe a little bit. I think the general concept for this game is a little bit different than anything I've put out in the past. But I've played in, some sci-fi settings, things like Aeon for the Trinity Continuum with psychics and things like that. So got a, foot in the door, as it were, I guess.
Now, you are well versed in ancestor worship, and so you've got a whole bunch of ancient spirits playing with you today, including Jeremy of Old Men Rolling Dice. You're kind of akin to an ancestral spirit. You're all about nostalgia for past glories.
Yeah, it leans into that. I mean, if I had a problem with being called old, I certainly picked a wrong username on most of my social medias and things like that. So yeah, I feel a little outgunned here though. Like, I'm not an author. I know you guys have had some great guests on authors, and I haven't done anything as lofty as like taking on the bureaucracy of my government. I feel I'm just that guy. I'm glad to be here though.
Well, your eloquence speaks for itself. You have quite the following online. You're constantly dipping into that treasure trove of the good old days. What's your most favorite gaming memory?
Oh my gosh, now you're really digging. You know what? It wasn't actually all that long ago. Like, I've been playing role-playing games for 40 years. So, but about this is going back maybe about 10 years. I was running a campaign, and it was Dungeons and Dragons. Our wizard in our group had to dispel a very high level spell, and there was a roll involved. And I think she needed like an 18. And it's one of those moments where like everything aligns, and she rolls a natural 20, and the table just like erupted. And I think it had it certainly had happened in my gaming before, but I had never been sort of cognizant of how amazing it is when something like that happens at the table. One of the other players was so excited, like he jumps up out of his seat and he sort of does a full lap of the table, high-fiving everyone, and everyone's laughing to the point of almost like crying. We're in such hysterics after the high fives were done in that. And it just kind of set the scene as to like why I do these games, because sometimes great stuff like that happens, and a shared make-believe sort of turns a whole bunch of adults into just like kids again, cheering and shouting and laughing. Here for just a moment, like there was just sort of bliss for no other reason than a dice came up on the number they were all hoping for. And it was a player who was very new. This was her first campaign. And I can only imagine the impression and memory that has given to her. It was fantastic. It's why I play the game. Like that was just it in a nutshell.
That is a great story. We had the kind of reverse a couple of weeks ago when Tilda, our pilot, joined on pretty much her first recording of an RPG, and she got a natural 1, a critical moment. So, that was equally hilarious. Anyway, Jeremy, to your point, the interesting thing about the podcast is bringing various different artistic types together and the way that they tell stories. Each of them is perfectly valid, and I think that everyone learns a little bit of something from it. Right?
I saw somebody on Reddit who said, I just want to play a D&D campaign where I tell the story and I get to do all this stuff and I just want to do it on my own. And then they replied to themselves and said, I was just informed that that's called writing a novel.
That's narration.
I support the railroad, by the way. As an old school gamer, I feel there was a lot of railroading back in the day. And I always say it's not railroading, it's called linear storytelling.
I give my players lots and lots of options, nearly all of which are quite bad.
Exactly. Let us proceed with Bill's favorite part of the episode, which is the quiz. The question that I have for you today is somewhat mythical. Can you name for me all of the children of Loki?
Sleipnir, the horse. I think Fenrir, the wolf, was as well. The serpent,
right? Yeah, the bigger.
There's
serpent.
one of them is, I don't remember his name though.
Jormungandr is the.
Jormungandr.
Is that it? Nice.
Serpent. Yep.
Nice.
You have named all of the monstrous kin, but he was married to Sigyn and had 2 offspring by her.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Valid contribution as always, Bill. Thank you.
Yep.
So I think one of his kids with Sigyn was Narfi.
Top marks. Good job, Josh.
I'm
The
trying.
other was Bill Hopkins.
I like how we're all waiting with bated breath for Josh to come up with a second name. You're our only hope.
Yeah, it's funny because I was like, should I study for this quiz? Like, I shouldn't fail this, and now I'm stumped. We didn't mention Hela earlier, but
Good. You've made some audacious stabs there, and you've got it almost right because you're correct. Hela is also fathered by Loki and the Jotun Angrabotha. The one that you're missing as a son by Sigyn is Vali. As often the case with Norse myth, it's a happy tale because the Aesir changed Vali into the form of a wolf and he tore apart his brother Narfi, and then the Aesir took his entrails and they bound the Loki with them over 3 stones. So a salient lesson for us all: be careful what you teach your children.
Nice and cheerful, like a German fairy tale.
Yeah.
Germanic folklore at its best.
Mm-hmm.
The inspiration point is yours. Remember to spend it. Perhaps put a post-it note, I don't know, on your screen, on your head, because oftentimes you forget to spend it. Let's begin the adventure. Now, rather than send you back to the ship and do some slightly boring inventory things, we will just start as you prepare to make planetfall. The supercomputer MIM has guided you towards the planet's surface using a mechanism called a gap lifter, or in our sci-fi terms, a space elevator. It's affectionately nicknamed Bifrost by the Skald for obvious mythological reasons. The orbital ring above acts as a counterweight, and the lifter spirals up and down a vast sky-bound tether. The journey to the planet below, the dual planet of Muspelheim, Niflheim, is a lengthy one. It's going to take you nearly 24 hours to descend from atmosphere down to the planet's surface. The trip is largely redundant in the era of flitting ships and thought and memory drive. However, your ship has powered down, and as you know, you are unseen, you are ghost-like, you are non-corporeal because you are out of phase in this time. The space elevator is still used to make occasional trips for study, maintenance, and descent to the planet surface by the techno priests who comprise the skulls, and it's the only real option available to you. Again, you are just on this shuddering space elevator that spirals down this tether towards the planet surface below, half of which is seething embers, the other half is chilling cold, and you will eventually alight in the Terminator Zone at some kind of docking station, the Terminator Zone being a habitable part of this tidally locked world. So let's just take a moment to introduce our two new crewmen, our new Gapfarers. We can imagine them a little bit like Warhammer 40k Space Marines. What will they see when they look at you, John?
So my character is in armor that is immediately obvious as a stylized depiction of Yggdrasil. His helmet is shaped to look like the head of an eagle, and if you look really close, there's a small bump that you got to get really close to see it. Is actually a blood red hawk. And along the arms are gold inlaid branch images with a recurring squirrel motif rushing up and down the arms. And his leg armor is shaped and colored like tree trunks. His boots look like mighty dragons that appear to be gnawing on the roots of the tree. And he goes by the name Ula Igsbani.
Now, historically, again, if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know that everyone will get your name wrong. And yeah.
Uma. No, I got it. Uma. I wrote it down.
Excellent. So I am playing Ganga Wolf, and Ganga is his armor may have had one time looked like. Are we calling him Uma? At one time looked like Uma, proud and epic in proportion. However, just rune upon rune upon rune upon rune has been scratched into its surface again and again and again. It looks like the armor is a bit of it's a bit archaic. It's been maybe a hand-me-down, as the runes are clearly not all written by the same individual if Ganga wrote them himself. If his helmet was off prior to us beginning to descend, he has perhaps the most glorious sort of 1980s mullet with a ridiculous, just like his armor is written all over his skin, including his face, tattooed everywhere in stereotypical knotwork patterns, almost like he's trying to look the role of the ultimate space Viking. But there is sort of a youthfulness in his eye and inexperience that you would clearly be able to see.
Very good. See, we've upped the quality now. We're bringing these DMs into the fold. There's all kinds of descriptive stuff going on. Cole, why don't you tell your crewmates why you have gathered them and what the mission is ahead? Perhaps it's the time to do a kind of mission briefing. You grabbed them from the Felkir, brought them down at Mim's insistence on this gap lifter.
Gappers, our fate is to go to Nostrand, the heart of darkness, and to stand witness against tyranny and murder. Now, we cannot save this planet or the Scold and their families above us, and we cannot change the past. But we can return to our time and save the remaining homeworlds from a worse doom. We must return the ravens who cruelly propel our noble Valkyr to the Allfather, whom they rightfully belong. We are to bear witness in this strand of time to prevent the same mistake from happening again.
Super. Now, Josh, one of the things that I've thought long and hard about, and again, is perhaps from your perspective, you may well have a good way to explain this, but stripping the ravens from Odin and delivering their skull and using it for the purposes of technology. I mean, it's akin to taking the Turin shroud or the nail of the cross or the crown of the thorns. There's something kind of blasphemous about this.
Ripping the thought and memory of the Allfather would prevent his ability to see into the world, to know what is coming, to be able to contextualize it in what has been. We will fix this.
I mean, as far as Gigi's concerned, this is just, okay, nothing new. I mean, he's going to look at
Uma.
Two syllables.
Yeah.
Two syllables.
Ula.
Went wrong quite quickly.
Ula and Wolf. I'm going to call you Wolf. I can remember that. And he's going to look, he's going to say, you have red on you.
Yes.
Bill, have you got any perspective about making planetfall, approaching the planet below, because you are potentially headed into the very birthplace of the universe, the place that sired the planets, the home of Yggdrasil itself?
It's the beginning of all things. It's the well of life. It's the meaning and purpose of every Alfar and every being.
But how does it make you feel, Bill? How does it make you feel?
A little dizzy. I feel like healing. I feel like healing a lot of people. Sometimes not healing. It's a broad range of emotions.
And Steve, let's get a little word from you as we approach the planet's surface, because one of the things that our new comrades might not understand is why you are unseen and just how trauma plays a part in your visibility and your ability to interact with the creatures and structures below.
One of the things that we've learned over time is that when someone is shifted sort of half in the world, half in the spirit world, they can only be seen by people who have suffered trauma, who have psychological damage. The more they have, the more that they're likely to see us, which is why up on the station, pretty much no one except that one unfortunate crazy man could see us. But we're now headed down to a prison where I think it's safe to say most everyone will have some amount of trauma. So we should assume that most of them, if not all of them, will immediately see us, and there will be no more sneaking around.
The elevator continues to lurch down its tether towards the impossible planet below. The star Sertologi sears the sky, appearing perhaps 10 times larger than Sol does on Midgard. It is an oppressive, radiant presence. As you know from your discussions last episode, the prison complex, Nastrond, and then this anchor station that you'll come to are well within this habitable Terminator zone. It comes into sharp relief as you descend, but there is no real boundary between the two sides of the tidally locked planet. There's nothing between Muspelheim proper and Niflheim, apart from this shadowy transition where along this Terminator line you can see it's flooded with a constant and sickly twilight. And in this zone, alien trees have flourished. They form tall, spindly black forests, aeons old. According to the wise, this is the very birthplace of the world's tree. You may, if you are religious, act with suitable awe. The space elevator shudders to a halt the doors open and they leave you able to enter onto the planet. You may proceed as you wish.
Naomi takes a deep breath and says, "The air is so rich, so full of life. You can smell it, you can feel it all around us. It's the holiest of places."
Cole
So
kneels.
Ula's gonna step out onto whatever the area is outside and kneel in prayer the second that he does so.
Cole will join him and run his hands through the dirt and just kind of feeling the earth.
You feel it, brother.
So full of life.
In a planetary context, again, this planet is gravitationally locked, so it's in a synchronous rotation with the star. Muspelheim, one half of the sphere, is like embers of a dwindling fire. Niflheim is this frozen waste with an atmosphere that glows like a sapphire. The planet does maintain a strong magnetic field and an oxygen-rich atmosphere, and there is a constant transfer of heat through these whirling winds that go from the hot to the cold side. So there is this constant blustering gale all around you that drowns out your voices.
Gunga totally has missed the religious significance here as he steps out of the elevator, locks his helmet down into place, and it's warm.
You might have a rival there, CJ, for stating the obvious.
Gigi doesn't even realize they've landed yet.
The prison complex will lie about 300 yards away. There is a poorly maintained stone walkway that dates to when the Skald was still constructing the ring station above. Effectively, this facility is a temporary structure that has been converted to a maximum security prison. It was never intended as such. It was a halfway house for techno-priest builders as they were constructing the vast edifice that dominates the sky above you.
Is the ring visible from, like, in the sky?
It dominates the horizon and it matches the Terminator line. So everywhere you look directly up, you will see this superstructure.
We're out of phase for the moment. What would inform us that we have phased in and therefore become visible and vulnerable to what I presume is going to be a large horde of voracious Orkneys?
I imagine that when they start screaming abuse and demanding your immediate vivisection, that will probably be the clue.
And I don't think we have to phase in to be seen anyway, do we? It's just if they've been traumatizing.
It's a function of trauma. You remain unseen and out of phase unless someone has trauma. And the degree to which they can see you, whether you're distinct or indistinct, depends on the amount of trauma. If you go back several episodes, CJ, to when you faced the ghostly World War I soldiers, you could see a hazy form, but you couldn't make them out as clearly as Steve did. So it may well be that people who have mild trauma catch a kind of a hint of you on the wind, a glimpse of you in a mirror. But the full-on death row inmates can probably see you in all of your satin glory.
So, Ian, could I use a spell here? I have Udal Right. It would let me ask you a yes or no question that might be helpful to us.
You may indeed. Entirely up to you.
So my question is it possible for us to sneak in to this place from where we are at right now?
Yes.
Will we be smart enough to figure it out?
No.
That's the second question.
That is the second question. Ula is going to turn to everyone and he's going to point and just kind of not specifically at anyone, but you are going to go left and down. You are going to go right and up. We will be close to the ground and careful on our way in. Do this and we will be safe.
And what about those of us who are particularly large and quite obvious?
And noisy.
Be quieter then.
Well, I could be quieter. It's more of an issue of my size.
Hide behind things. I am not small in my armor, am I?
I just don't like sneaking.
Josh, there's a couple of things that have come up in previous episodes. The first is that he is the size of Gangerolf, who was is a pun for why Jeremy is called Gangerwolf. So he was the heavy set Norseman who was so large he couldn't ride a horse. And secondly, when they were on a stealth mission to rescue the law speaker a few episodes ago, CJ was effectively foghorn leghorn and just alerted everybody.
He got bored and threw a couple grenades into a gondolier.
Yeah. So just be prepared.
He's keen on just opening up with his machine gun. He likes to let that speak for him.
Yeah.
The patience part of him is not strong.
I suspect, Josh, as you are a veteran, you've been around the military, you might have a discipline and approach to these things that is entirely absent from this group.
I'm picking up that energy right now. Definitely.
Especially Gigi.
However, feel free to try and drag them kicking and screaming. I think it will be a life lesson.
Oh, we'll again, look you up and down and go, stay low. When things get hot, you do what you are good at, yes?
Certainly.
Fantastic.
I shall tiptoe to the best of my ability and whisper as quietly as I can.
The prison complex, as I've said, is a maximum security prison. The planet itself acts as the warden for the murderers, adulterers, and oathbreakers who find themselves banished here. A lot of the Jotnar were sent here as prisoners of war. It's an equivalent to Guantanamo, perhaps. Rescue is impossible because you flee into Niflheim and you freeze, you escape into Muspelheim and you burn. The prison proper is within visibility. You can see as you stealthily approach, hugging the trees that ring the stone walkway, you can see that there are a group of inmates lounging around at the entrance to the prison. They haven't seen you, they're talking amongst themselves. One of them is a broken down, antiquated dverg. The second is a hulking wain covered with orange flowers. The third is an excitable man who is being berated by the fourth figure, who's also a man, all of whom are in orange jumpsuits adorned with the Nastrond motif.
There doesn't appear to be like a guard with them or anything like that, though.
Partly because the structure itself is so inaccessible, you can't get out of here without frying or freezing. It's the ultimate Alcatraz.
I'll turn to the group, and one of us needs to make a distraction to move them away from the door.
Yeah, everyone's pointing at CJ.
Me? Son, I shall go introduce myself. They may know who I am. I was the silver medalist at the All Asgard Games for the Tonga Hunk.
Oh, God. Gunga looks incredibly impressed that you're a silver medalist.
A fan! Woo! I'm trying to read Ian's face to see if this is another, jumping
No,
out of space.
you do.
His eyes are only bulging a little. We're fine.
You do, Gigi.
All right. So Gigi's going to walk toward these prisoners. So he's going to saunter. It's not going to be a march. It's going to be a little less aggressive. And he'll saunter and kind of wave and try and get their attention. And in his usual voice, he'll say, "Hello, my dear fellows. I am your new cellmate. I have been sent here for committing atrocious crimes of all manner of varieties. I am Griotgath, the Magnificent. You may have heard of me, silver medalist, All Asgard Games." Wait, has he won the silver medal yet?
Yeah, exactly. You're back in the past. Who knows?
We're 5 years in the past.
You might have just given them the kind of betting scan for all time.
The almanac.
Now, how many of them actually see me and hear me as I approach?
All four of them turn to you and look you up and down to get your measure. Just quickly before you go on, what is everyone else doing? Did you all hunker down by the bridge following Josh's lead?
Can I cast Dream Sight?
Dream Sight prevents you being surprised. So, should you be surprised, I will recognize that you wanted to peer into the near future to prevent you from doing so. But there is no immediate danger.
No,
you
I'm
can
very
also
much
use
not surprised by Gigi.
You can also use Dream Sight to re-roll a dice, so that's worth remembering.
Mm-hmm.
So, CJ, they simply look you up and down. They are somewhat surprised to see you. And the hulking Wayne, again, he's rippling with muscles bursting out of his suit. And he says, "What you doing outside? Nobody complains about outside. As bad as it is better than being threatened by the Christians."
I came from the elevator. Did you know that the big elevator? Have you seen it? They sent me down.
How then you a prisoner?
They just sent me down. How are you a prisoner? There are no guards.
It making no sense. And he looks across to his fellow prisoners. The old droid simply looks at you and says, "I'm leaking. Oh, I'm leaking."
Dare I ask, leaking what?
It's my battery fluid. It's leaking.
Gigi is a Yofor, and Yofor are tremendously, what's the right word?
Leaky.
No, tremendously fond of these little robot things. In fact, he speaks their language, and so he's going to say, "Allow me. I know my way around your kind. I may be able to help you."
You remember how Steve was once incarcerated, his spirit in a broken down heap of old crap? This is probably even older, and you can quickly ascertain that this Diverg is at the end of its battery life, and God knows what crime it committed or why it is here, and it's just constantly moaning. The fourth figure is even more unhinged, and he tugs at your cape and says, "You got some grenades, you got some grenades! Boom! Set the fire, set the fire!"
I am so sorry, good man. I used all of my grenades on the Imperial fleet. Unfortunate, I know. They were quite effective. Big boom indeed. I agree with you.
What about your friends? They got some grenades?
What friends?
He is just bouncing up and down excitedly, and he reaches into his pocket and begins to light matches and singe his fingernails with them. The last man turns to you and says, "Please accept my apologies for these my other inmates. I can act, if you like, as a guide to Nastrand. I have a little guidebook here. It is merely 1 Imperial shilling, and it contains a list of all of the inmates that we've had, rich and famous and illustrious and ennobled and scurrilous and evil. That's all here for you laid out."
That could come in handy, actually. Hands over an Imperial shilling.
You look through the guidebook. It is effectively toilet tissue that has got lots of blots and stains on it.
Could still come in handy later.
"You look like you could lift an ox," says the Wayne. "When I was a young man, I was a great one for hefting, but now I have no strength left. I can barely lift up my head. We Waynes, we honor the insane, you know. Step aside for them, but inside, be careful for the Roarer. He is a whole new level of a crazy."
I shall avoid him, meet him, ally with him. What are you suggesting? Is everybody sneaking in? Because Gigi's just struggling here.
Tell you what, everyone give me a slight roll with one wheel, considering that CJ has had to deal with these renegade inmates.
I think we were all just hiding by the bridge watching you going, he's actually doing quite well this time.
These people are insane.
With a wheel, he said?
With a wheel.
12.
16.
Well, so far we've got an Alf stealth squadron.
So 19.
Like a parliament of owls. What's the group now for ninjas? We should
A
shadow of ninjas.
I'm pretty sure.
Shadow of ninjas,
Yeah.
or maybe it's just
Just
of ninjas.
He's got them distracted. Is this when we open fire?
typically, yes.
Hopefully not on Gigi.
Don't shoot until absolutely necessary. They are not innocents, but they do not need to die yet.
Gigi's going to take this insanity a little bit higher now, and so you're going to see him conversing with his hands, and that's him. And because of the wind, you can't really hear what he's saying. But basically, what he's saying is, "I really was silver medalist at the All Asgard Games. You have rope. I shall demonstrate. All of you on one side and me on the other, and we shall play Tonga Honk. Here now, let's have some fun." And then, so they're going to be looking for rope. Hopefully, is there a rope in my pack? Do I have a rope?
You do. We've covered this in your
I have a
bailout
rope.
bag.
So
You
he's
have told
pulling
it.
out a rope from his bailout bag. Going, let's play. Grab the end. All of you on one side, and I shall be on this side. So he's setting up a tug of war.
Very
Did we
ingenious.
establish a way to extract him?
No, we've got our
No.
strongest guy with the biggest gun, and we've just clued him out of our plan.
He once rode a rocket ship and somehow escaped from that. It was fantastic.
We had to go back in time to save him.
And we're back in time now.
You don't need to worry about his gun. I mean, you have Ula and I sort of brandish my gun. I assume
So-
that's what my shaker is.
Your shaker is it's the Norse pseudonym for a machine gun. The great thing about Norse and Icelandic is it's very poetic, and it kind of lends itself to these things. So dragon guns, howling dogs, all of these things are what we conjure with to name the weaponry. So yes, you've got all of those to hand. CJ, we will leave you playing your game of tug of war with at least 3 of the inmates who participate. The Dverg is a little bit too miserable and tired to participate and simply slumps down in a corner and dozes off. The rest of you can enter the prison complex itself. The area that is behind these guys is very clearly abandoned. There is, however, a constant chanting that echoes through the building. One of the things that occurs to you here is it's almost monastic. The Nastron facility is just Spartan, clearly not designed as a prison. There are no bars, there's no cells. It's like a military facility that has been repurposed. You see it's largely wrecked. There's empty room upon empty room with old circuits ripped out of the walls, bits of insulation and building materials strewn everywhere. And the only thing that distinguishes it from an out-and-out ruin is that the walls are adorned with crucifixes and the occasional open flame torch and religious icon. There is a sense that this is almost a medieval monastery. The easiest thing would be to follow the chanting. From this entranceway, you can wind your way through rooms, an empty kitchen and mess hall with strewn pots and pans, a blood-ridden infirmary where there are soiled sheets and masses of ransacked cabinets, but the whole place again feels very derelict.
Do we get a general sense of how long ago any of these things were used or that people came through here? I know we can hear this chanting, but does it seem well trod?
It does. It's as if people have been summoned from what they were doing. There were perhaps a plate of half-eaten and warm beans in the mess hall. There's a half-finished surgical procedure and a bowl of blood with a scalpel in the infirmary. There's all of these little clues that suggest that people were here within the past few hours.
Do we have a
Can,
sense of how
Cole-
many people are chanting?
Good question.
It's fairly harmonious. It's like psalms echoing. It would be akin to a large church and a congregation within singing lustily, but at some distance because it's echoing through the ventilation shafts, through gaps in the wall, reverberating around the building as a whole. And it's probably 50, 60, 100 yards away and slightly muffled by the amount of walls between you and wherever the congregation is gathered.
Is there a way to get above where we think they might be to have some sort of vantage point over anyone? That's what I would be looking for, if that's something available.
The architecture of the roof, the ceilings all look fairly solid, so you could get above them and be on the roof atop them and be able to hear where the noise is coming from, but it'd be then difficult to get into the room from that vantage point. For example, as you pass through the infirmary, you notice that there is a disconnected power plant. You can tell it's disconnected because this whole place is lit by torches as opposed to electricity. You can see near that power plant is a guard tower that will look over an interior courtyard, and from that you're fairly sure that you could climb up onto the roof in the direction where the congregation are gathered.
Is it possible to search the infirmary for any kind of like med kit, first aid kit, healing supplies that we could take advantage of?
There's nothing here that Leomi doesn't have already, but yes, you could scrounge together and create your own medkit or field kit or any
I feel
number
like taking
of...
that into my own responsibility rather than,
I got your back. Oh my goodness.
Yes, by all means, this place is Spartan and monastic, but there is enough here in terms of bandages and drugs that you can cobble something together and put it into your packs.
I'm gonna draw I have a long axe. I feel like we're going into close quarters in here, and we maybe don't want guns going off right away. I'll certainly volunteer to lead the way through these dark and grubby hallways towards the chanting, if that's the plan, or at least to move towards the tower that you spoke of, that we can get a look. I feel like Genghis sort of looking at everyone like, so I'll go.
Leomi's gonna cast healing herbs so that I'm ready to do extra good healing should the need arise.
Cole kind of would step forward and just say, like, I would caution us to resort to violence before we have to. I'm not sure what effect our weapons would have in this timeline, in this phase, or what consequences our destruction would have on our future if we were to do something too rash. So perhaps we stay our blades as long as it is possible.
Then I think it is smart we use the tower to get an idea of what's going on, listen in, and then make a decision on how we act from there.
Agreed.
Okay. Gigi, you can rejoin the group as they gather and make their plans there. And Josh, if you want to clamber up the tower, you can get on top of the roof without giving your presence away, because there is so much noise that's coming out as the prisoners below are lustily singing their carols, their chants, their psalms. There is a worship going on, and as Norsemen, it's not something that is very familiar to you. It sounds ancient and liturgic. It sounds as if they are chanting in Latin.
disgusting language.
So Gigi comes up behind everybody and tries to whisper, "So, how far have you gotten?"
So Ula's on top of this guard tower at the moment, so I'm not sure if he heard that. But you're pretty loud, so maybe he did.
Louder than the chanting? Hopefully not. And what's that dreadful music coming from the other room?
Having scouted it out from the various different vantage points, you can see that the only way into what appears to be a makeshift chapel is through some large steel doors that stand slightly ajar. There's enough room there to shoulder them aside and enter into the room beyond, and just enough of a gap that the music, the singing beyond, is somewhat muffled and not coming out in its full resonant glory.
I just want to double check again. The plan is to retain the timeline and not eliminate every being in that space, correct?
Correct.
Yes, we're meant to merely be voyeurs.
Then we should wait for their chanting to be over and they leave, and then we should enter that space to see what is inside.
Or perhaps the chanting is what we are meant to observe?
How closely is what I am worried about.
No one's going to write anything about people that live here. I think we can do as we please.
That seems unwise and perhaps unhospitable to those who are here attempting to become rehabilitated, one might argue.
Did you see those guys out front? There's no rehabilitation going on there. They didn't even know about Gigi's silver medal.
You should see them now, covered in mud. I won, by the way.
If only one amongst your party had such abilities as Stonewalk or Blacksight.
That's a big hint for somebody.
Yeah, that's a huge hint.
I've learned to pick up on Ian's subtle little hints over time.
Subtle.
If I may for a moment, Air has an ability to turn himself invisible for a short period. He has limited X-ray vision. If he's standing next to a wall, he can see through it. And he can disguise up to five people for up to an hour.
So we could all have orange suits on, like the ones outside.
Air goes invisible, and the five of us are prisoners.
And we could go to the doors. You could look through the doors, couldn't you?
Yes.
Air could look through the door. I love this plan. Very heroic.
No way for it to fail. If we can get close to the door, maybe not even the door, it could be a wall, like a wall that we know, a wall with the chapel on the other side. Air could press his nose to the wall and look through the wall and see what's going on the other side.
Can indeed. So
it doesn't have to be the door.
Correct. You can find an adjacent wall and peer through using your Doc Alpha gift of black sight. On the far side of the wall are indeed hundreds of inmates sitting transfixed. Some are praying on their knees, others are lying prostrate on the floor, some have fists raised and are chanting in an ancient tongue. In the center of the group is a thin, unkempt man, his eyes redolent of ancient enmities, smoldering like cold black embers.
What's this unkempt man doing? Air will relay to the group sort of very, what do you call it, sotto voce or whatever, just very quietly relate to the group what he's seeing, sort of under his voice.
It's clear to you that he is controlling the inmates as a puppeteer controls a marionette. He holds some kind of bulbous capsule in his hand, and he is conducting the choir of inmates within.
Air will relay all this to the rest of the team. That it seems that there's a ringleader who is quite literally conducting a choir.
The figure glances over his shoulder directly at you, understanding that there is an intervening wall, and he says, you shouldn't be here. Mimi playing games again. What do you hope to find?
But what was it Mimir said we needed to witness? Didn't it tell us? Is this anything close to what it was saying we need to witness? We need to witness something, right? Did it say, like, witness this event?
Question. The congregation he's conducting, are they entirely people or are any of them Orkneys? Because we had a theory that something was going on down here.
The vast majority, as far as you can tell, are all Jotnar soldiers, prisoners of war, the brutish giants of Norse mythology who were defeated in the war, and many of them incarcerated here for their part in it.
Also, Eric will point out with some distress that he just, whoever that is, just saw air through the wall. Presumably he can see the rest of us.
Don't just stand there. Come in, come in. You may as well have a ringside seat.
Ula will just walk around through the doors and in, and
Might as well.
Yeah, I'll follow.
In for a penny, in for everything.
Sounds like there's something to
As,
witness here.
This is a breach attack,
As-
right? We go in.
weapons down for now.
Cole will turn to Gigi and says, Gigi, you can see one's spirit companions, can you not?
Somewhat.
It is keep an eye on our quarry here to see if anything shows up. I'm curious what may be at play here.
Certainly.
Air will cast ancestral wisdom on himself to make himself immune to charm, compel, frighten, and trauma, because I have a feeling one or more of those things is going on in there.
Alas, that these larvae should die in the moment of fertilization. Such it is with all joy. Life's most splendid moment of enjoyment is accompanied by death.
So we've all walked in.
You are all within the makeshift chapel at the back by the wall, watching this unkempt, wiry man conduct his Jotnar orchestra.
I think it would be proper for me to introduce myself and my friends. I'm Griotka.
There really is no need. I know all there is to know about you.
Indeed. But
The
then-
Skald plucked the wings off the raven god, but they bit off a little bit more than they can chew. The fools took Vithrir's hounds as well. They will devour you soon enough.
I feel like you have us at a disadvantage. Who are you, sir?
Why, I am the roarer. Does my fame not precede me? This little experiment is but the tip of the spear. You'll see what I mean soon enough.
Unfortunately, no. Were you in the old Asgard games, perchance?
Oh, my dear fellow, I was the one that built the very wall around the place.
Have we
that-
witnessed enough?
I don't think so. I think the thing is coming. I think the big thing is coming.
I think it's here.
So, hearing that, someone present would kind of understand what that means, right? If he erected the walls around the all Asgard games, that would make him. We would know, right? It would be like, walking into a room and it's like a zombie John Kennedy, and then you go, oh, who are you? I'm the one who said man to the moon, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, you're Kennedy. Okay, so we would know, right? We would have some kind of history.
You would. So in the context of the Jotun War, the roarer is the leader of the Thrall rebellion. He was the one that roused the Christian souls to topple the empire, and he was the originator of the Jotnar themselves, splicing man and animal to create the savage soldiers that almost tore the empire apart.
To which then Gigi would say, holy shit, you're still alive? Did they kill you twice? Like Rasputin? Stabbed, shot, thrown in a river, you came back, stabbed, shot you again, threw you into the river again?
Did I mention the most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have? You should run.
Running.
You notice that as the roarer talks, the convicts behind him are being transformed. Their bodies snap and shuffle as they contort themselves one by one into a legion of cannibalistic ghouls. The whole prison, in the space of seconds, becomes a hellish nightmare as you witness the birth of the Orkneys.
So Ula's going to point at Ganga, axe back to back at the door.
I'm very excited about that.
And my goal is to act as a blockade for the rest of the group to get out and run while we take on these things as they are coming at us.
Well, that is unprecedented bravery. You may award yourself one honor for the brief moment of time in which it will be useful for you. These Orkneys are the embodiment of undeath and primordial elements. They are the infectious horror of zombies interwoven with the chill of an ice giant's breath and the ruthless rage of a fire giant's heart. These are creatures that are born of this impossible planet. The whole chamber echoes to their infernal screams as they descend upon you like a tempest. Fast turn or slow turn?
Fast turn.
What do you
1
think,
second.
MCJ?
Gigi was lying. He has grenades. He's gonna toss a few into the pit. And what? How many can I can I do two? Can I double fist and do two and toss them in?
You can throw a whole harness of grenades should you wish.
And describe to me the scene. So we're kind of at the back, and then there's just this whole horde of people. So if I just kind of toss it in the middle and tell everybody to duck, it could make big boom boom.
You could certainly do that. Again, the scene is a makeshift chapel that has been put together in the bowels of this prison facility. So there's no stained glass windows or anything. This is like being in the, as Cole described it earlier, the heart of darkness. And in front of you are a horde of creatures that are animated by a primeval will and fury. Their bodies bear the pallor of death, the cold blue of frostbite, and others of them are set ablaze like fire giants. They lurch like the Leviathans towards you, claws scorching the air in their frenzy.
Okay, so that's awesome. Quick question: how resilient is the Ironsides spell?
The Ironside gift enables you to resist as a triggered action 1 set of damage per round.
And so if I were to wear my grenade belt as a suicide vest and run at the roarer, would I survive?
Your Ironside would enable you to ignore that damage, although if that damage we would roll it were significant enough, you would take trauma from the fact that you would have otherwise have died. But you can contain that damage and hopefully try and take out as many as possible.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm glad that we talked this out. So I'm going to toss the entire vest with all the grenades at the roarer, because he's presumably kind of in the middle of this horde. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to bear hug everybody else to shield them from the blast, to minimize the collateral damage. So just a quick whoop, and then turn around and be like, Duck, everyone!
Josh, I just want to ask, is this kind of tactic in any military manuals that you've read?
I don't think so, no. But it's not a bad idea. Use your, explosives and then jump on the grenade, as it were, to protect your friends. Sure.
Jump on the friends to protect from the grenade.
I believe they're still working this one out in the academies. There's been a few wrinkles that have come up.
Especially the
Look,
invincibility
I have heard that we have a great healer. So whatever damage is done from these grenades, I'm sure we can recover, right?
Oh, absolutely. Plus, the other one picked up a bunch of medical equipment. So, we're good.
Okay, so I have a fast turn, and this is how combat works, just so that everyone knows it's not initiative-based like D&D, this being the V&V podcast. We don't do rolls like that. Fast turn enables you to take an action, or if you took a slow turn, you can take an action and move, but opposing creatures that took a fast turn would go before you. So there's a kind of sequential camaraderie to combat where you can build off each other, and certainly because some abilities have the option to lend each other wheels and enhance skills. Here, for example, as a triggered action, CJ could also engage in cutting insults or flighting with the Aurora, and that would benefit everyone's immediate roll, he said by way of suggestion.
Yomi is going to cast Summon Spirits in fast turn.
Very good. And would you like to tell all of the assembled dignitaries what that does for you?
Well, it allows me to either attack creatures directly, using up the number of spirits that I have to roll, or I can give people wheels, or I can give enemies rolls. I rolled an 8.
So the spirits will issue forth at your command and assist your combat.
I think I'm going to take a slow turn.
I think I'm going to take a slow turn as well.
Yeah, I want to come out shooting, but after Gigi has sort of cushioned the force of the grenades, and then I'll come out from behind that. So I guess that would be a slow turn. I guess that's what I'm
Okay.
getting at.
Eric will take a fast turn to use self-fortification to brace against the impending mayhem.
And as a living statue, one of the Dark Alpha, you have the ability to reconstitute your body in hardened form and protect yourself from the inevitable onslaught of damage that is about to happen. Gigi, you lob your bandolier of grenades. Last time you just threw 3 as part of a juggling act. This time you are, shall we say, hurling 10 at the foe. They land with a clatter immediately at the roarer's feet. Now this man, like I said, is spindly and gaunt. He has coal black eyes and a shock of red hair that stands upright like an explosion itself. And he picks up your bandolier of grenades and he holds them in front of his face, and he chuckles as he compresses them to dust. Really? How rude!
I did not see that coming.
Who wants to take those slow turns?
I think that's a good point now for Ula and Ganga to step back around the party with axes and be ready to hack whatever is coming at us.
Above table question real quick. With triggered actions, if something like, in my case, I have Wardenry, if that can be an action or a triggered action, does that essentially work like a bonus action would in D&D, or since it's an undefined triggered action?
Triggered actions, yeah, are the equivalent of a reaction. So you can take an action and set the trigger so that when the triggering action occurs, you perform the trigger.
Got it, like a hold action. Got it. Cool.
Everyone else is bracing for impact.
I'm actually going to step around and start using. I can burst fire with my shaker, I think, and I think I'm going to start laying down suppressive fire on the closest ranks of bad guys. Not the roarer. I'm I want a thin numbers that can actually get to us if possible.
Roll for damage. If you do burst fire, you don't have to roll to hit. You just portion the damage amidst the creatures that are rushing towards you. They might make a slight roll, but these creatures are effectively operating in game terms as a mob, which is a collation of individuals that perform much more as a swarm.
I do have an ability called Weapons Expertise, which allows me to add an extra D6. So
Correct.
would that apply in this case?
It would. So you should be rolling 6d6, I think.
I think so too. I rolled very well. 28.
Your bullets tear into the horde, but they barely make a dent in its relentless surge. One of the things about the Orcneas is even when they are felled, unless they are burned or beheaded, then they rise again. So each of your shots is unfortunately somewhat fruitless, and they advance unfazed even if they are missing limbs or have been splattered by gunfire.
As the burst goes off, Ula screams, "That's why I said axe! That's why I said axe!"
So, not to say that, the some Orcus aren't felled, as each bullet does find its mark. It's just there are so many of them that the relentless tide is not stopped. And by the time the ones that were punctured and cast to the cold, hard ground are passed over, they will stand again, risen in undeath.
How far are we from the door?
You're standing in the doorway.
Oh, nice. How wide is the doorway?
It is 6 yards wide, 18 feet.
Time to run. I think Cole's just going to start, say, we need to fall back now. We need to go and start running through the door.
Cole is hightailing it. Cole is the captain of the Falcon. He is your commanding officer. If anyone wants to disobey his orders, then by all means do so.
So I think Ula is going to step into the room. You said there are torches, right? That are lighting everything. There are torches in this room as well.
The whole chamber is interspersed with occasional flaming torches, again like that medieval monastery. So you could pull them out of a socket and brandish one should you wish to.
Yeah, so I think Ula's going to grab that and probably doesn't have any cloth on him, but he's going to take the torch and throw it toward the massive Orcneas and then move in with his axe to try and take some heads off.
Let's make some rolls here. So you have the benefit of wearing the Gapfarer's suit of armor. That is genetically engineered to fit you. However, the challenge here is that while they may not be able to penetrate the mix of plasteel and ironwood that surrounds you, carved ornately to fit your form, this chaotic maelstrom of rending teeth and claws will attempt to rip off your helmet, and their searing bites may well find a way to penetrate your runic shields and metamaterials. So the horde automatically does damage to anyone who stays within its environment at the end of any round, and so I'm going to ask you to take 12 damage.
Okay.
You remain intrepid, making your stand in front of this monstrous wave, but you are engulfed by the tempest and they begin to tear at your armor. Let's go to the top of the next round.
All right. Gigi's ready to make the next move. He's going to say, I think we've seen enough. Thank you very much. And he's going to carve wave runes in the doorway that will erect a shield, and then he will designate the creatures of his choice, which will be his companions who are present, who will be able to move through the shield, but the Orcneas will not be able to cover their retreat. I suggest we get back to the elevator and back to the future.
Great Scott!
You etch your eldritch symbols into the doorway and it creates an impenetrable barrier that will give you at least a minute head start, whilst this unholy union of frost and flame seethes behind you.
I suggest we all go. I could only do one of those.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Is this a mass flee, or are some people remaining to stem the tide?
I'm going with my strengths and flame.
Some of us remember being slaughtered by the Orkneys 3 rounds in a row.
Yeah.
I am going to take a slow turn, but overall, I'm going to flee.
I don't want Ula being consumed by the horde. I know that his intention was to guard the doorway, which I'm still fine doing. But if I can, like, sort of slash with my axe to get to him and pull him back so he's not being overwhelmed, to put sort of the door at our back, so to speak, that's what I would like to do.
That means stepping into the avalanche of rot and ruin that has swarmed over him like an unstoppable wave. You're welcome to do so, but it will be a feat of unparalleled heroism, and Valhalla may be calling.
I've heard that's the only way you get glory, though. That's yeah. So I got to live up to this armor I'm wearing, so I'm gonna go for that.
Feel free to give me a might roll and give me the damage associated with your long axe as you twirl it with great skill, reminiscent of the Varangian guard of old, clefting and cleaving as you go.
Awesome. Okay, so I've got, and I get a wheel with this because I have weapons handling, I think. So 21.
That will give you not only a hit, it will give you additional damage because of the abilities that you have, I think, on your character sheet. So roll me the various dice sixes.
Oh, but I do have forceful strike, so if I roll more than a 20...
Exactly, that was what I was referencing. So you get to
okay, so another d6. Oh, wow. 20 damage in total.
Don't die. We could use you on a regular basis.
There is a flurry of steel as you contest the space with the horde of Orkneys and almost fight your way through to your fallen companion, aiming to grab him. You just reach out. He's just that little bit beyond reach. If you give me a successful might roll, I will let you grab his shoulder.
Okay. Plus 3, 15.
With a surge of adrenaline, you clasp your gauntleted hand on his shoulder and haul him somewhat out of the fray, just as, undeterred by your weaponry, the horde swarm forward, again their forms flickering with infernal fire, their very touch scorching your armor.
So before I ran, I wanted to lay down covering fire to kind of give them some kind of assistance to pull back from the horde. So can I use my Hospital and make 3 attacks using the weapon?
By all means, roll away.
Okay. First one is a 4, and we're not going to use that die anymore. Second one is a 10. What do I add to attack rolls? Is it
your sleight in this case?
Sleight.
And I do love the correlation between the word die, meaning dice, and the word die, meaning perish.
Such a GM thing to say. Oh
Right.
my god.
We have spirit
And,
giving wheel as well, don't we?
I have weapons handling giving me a wheel as well, so that makes it a 17 for the second attack, and the third attack is wheel 12.
Bullet after bullet finds their targets. Orkneys drop one after the other, only to have the terrifying horde pull over them in a seething sea that continues to surge towards you.
As soon as I finish the attack, I'm going to say, everyone's clear, get out now, let's go, and turn and start following the other 3.
It is clear that dozens upon dozens, scores upon scores, nay, hundreds upon hundreds of these new feral Orkneys are about to burst from the room. And if you know your history, then they surge up the very space elevator that you descended upon and storm the orbital station above you, destroying everything in their apocalyptic wake. This is the benefit of traveling back in time and having 2020 Doomsday hindsight.
So was that a strong suggestion that we not go to the elevator?
Oh, it's entirely up to you. I don't think that there's many other methods of getting off the planet beyond running into the furnace or the frigid waste.
We need to make it to the ship.
Yeah.
And I would remind you that 24 hours down, 24 hours back, and you had a total of 72 hours before that star that hung sullenly in the sky detonates the supernova called the Swordfall and eradicates all life on this planet. And sorry, Josh and Jeremy, to parachute you right into the middle of Ragnarok, but, you know, it happens. Like the Aurora said, you've got a ringside seat.
But what should we do?
You are able to bring the stragglers to the doorway. The gaunt, spindly Aurora strides up and looks at the wave runes and begins to draw his finger over them with a very long claw-like fingernail, and he pops them one by one. The full field that you had created with your runic magic instantly collapses, and he chuckles to himself.
Would we know from our history how long it took the Orkneys to climb the ladder? Are they climbing it faster than the elevator can go?
Good question.
There were no eyewitnesses to tell the tale and keep time.
Aren't we already Steve, how far away are you now?
Air is currently, I think without hyperbole, I think I can say that Air is currently the fastest diamond-encrusted obsidian statue on the planet. And he is headed to the base of the elevator, and he's going to push the call button.
You don't have to summon it because no one else has been using it. It is still there.
That never happens.
Well, luckily you're the only people who've chosen to descend to a planet about to detonate. There weren't people queuing up.
No,
Funny if we had to wait the whole 24 hours for the elevator to come back down to pick us up, and then 24 hours to go back up.
24 hours of elevator music.
Nice.
So, Ian, would it be worth it for being suicidal to blow up said elevator to prevent the Orkneys from going up it?
It's certainly something that you can try. The only advice that I will give you is that the omnipresent sentience that was Mim, who in this world is the supercomputer reflection or analog of Mimi in myth, said that there was no way of preventing this doom, but you were to stand judgment in the hope that you might prevent the next. There is seldom a single wave.
Fair enough. It is the thought that goes through Ula's head, though, very strongly. Like, we could save lives, but maybe not.
When it comes to Mimir, it's the thought that counts.
Oh, nice.
Man.
Painfully good. Well, we got to go up the elevator, right?
All aboard the doomed elevator.
Yeah.
The Aurora, who stands in the sea of Orkneys as they swarm over the bridge, some of them burning brightly, others are rhyme-jeweled supermen. All of them are born of the Jotnar, so are muscular, beetling brutes. He waves at you and says, "Give my regards to the future of mankind. We love all of you."
Yes, thank you. Farewell.
It's too bad he couldn't die.
As eccentric as we all are, it's very comforting to me that we're not the most eccentric in this universe.
There's always a more eccentric bad guy.
There seems to be.
Why they all monologue so much? It's just inherent.
That's right.
the elevator begins to slowly spiral up and away, leaving the planet's surface behind, and you can just hear the screams of the Orcus as they begin to clamber up, moving at horrifying speed, clambering up the star ladder, trying to keep pace. I'm going to ask you all to give me an awareness check.
7.
27.
That's a 20 plus 4 for 24.
96. Oh, no, wait a minute. 9.
I rolled
20
a
plus 5 for 25.
I rolled a natural 1 for 2 with my bonus.
Who invited that kid?
He's the muscle, not the brains.
Those of you who didn't, you're probably too traumatized, too horrified by the fact that these spiky terrors are clambering up this star ladder. But the ones of you who passed can look down and you see an oddity, an additional oddity, should I say, on the planet's surface that's visible from the rising lifter. You see the Falcon sitting idle. Its Imperial crew are clearly trying to hurry through some last-minute repairs. You have to look on impotently as the Sea of Orkneys, unleashed from Nastrond, begin to scramble over the hull and overpower the crew. There are a few desperate shots of the dragon guns that hurtle shells into the horde, but it's not enough to save the ship from being entirely overwhelmed.
Well, that's that mystery enlightened a little bit about the fate of the Falkyr. That's the not our Falkyr. That's the historic Falkyr that then we have now discovered.
Which dumped Orkneys on us.
Yes.
That's a fair assumption. In your earpiece, through your comms, you hear Ragni, your pilot, who pipes up in your ear and says,
So the ship is in full alert, but I still don't have power. What are your orders, Captain?
We don't have power.
Quick, think of something.
Do we need to report to Mim directly, or is Mim aware of what we've seen and we can just skip that and run straight for the ship?
I know which one I'm voting for.
you don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid, Steve.
Okay.
Do we remember if Ming gave us any kind of indication of when our time, like, are we going to just pop back into our existence, or do we have to travel back to the Rift, or anything about how we're getting back?
I don't think there was any.
Steve, could you ask the Skald in your head or the seer in your ear?
Oh, brilliant. Yes,
The elf
yes.
on the shelf? The Alfar on the shelfar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will ask the voices, or the voice singular in his head. Does Mim know what we've seen? Have we borne witness to Mim?
No.
Mim does not know what we've seen. We have to get word to Mim, or else we haven't upheld our end of the deal. Crap.
Let me clarify. What I thought you asked me was whether you had seen what Mim needed you to witness, and the answer is no.
Oh.
Oh,
Maybe it's
Oh.
the star going on.
there's something we haven't seen yet.
There's
Can I
something
do-
that hasn't happened yet.
Can I do my oodle right to ask you a yes or no question?
Of course. You've got plenty of time. You're basically sitting in an elevator, listening to the elevator music with a horde of undead ice and fire giants tearing up the atmosphere below.
It's not our worst day. It's not our worst day by a long shot.
Are we able to witness what needs to be witnessed from the ring?
Yes.
Okay. That's encouraging, if nothing else, right?
Ragni pipes up again, asking for your orders.
Ragni, man the guns, lock down the ship defensively until we make it back. We have 24 hours to figure out how to get power back to you.
She says,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Don't go back again.
Lock down the ship, prepare it for defense as if a siege were coming. We will be back on the station in 24 hours. We have that amount of time to find out how to get power. Protect the crew and everyone, and do your best. I'm going to look around at everyone else.
I presume they're the
Going
sled
well.
dogs that
Yeah,
got brought on
probably.
board. Well, I would just like to say today was a good day. You know why? Because Gita said we would die down there. Well, here we are, not down there, and very much alive, even the red shirts. That's a victory!
He's not wrong.
He's technically correct. The best kind of correct.
We've evaded a swarm of Orkneys, who will kill us 3 times in the future.
The Orkneys horde are gathering with insane momentum, threatening to overtake your carriage to the stars.
Oh, how close are we to the ring at this point? Are we still hours out, or?
Yeah, this is literally 24 hours of crawling up a nanofiber tube into the atmosphere with an undead horde of relentless marching giants underneath you, clambering their way up along the same tether.
Are we able to not fully exit, but even partially exit this thing at all? Maybe in our Gapfarer suits, Ganga and I.
You certainly could, because your gap suits are designed for exploration of the Gununga Gap, the Norse yawning void, and so even as you hurtle into the thinning atmosphere, you would be able to smash through a window, clamber outside, rake the approaching horde with gunfire. However, it's a risky maneuver, as you may well allow the Orkneys to enter through the breach that you've made.
Also, the rest of us would suffocate.
Yeah, there's that. Steve would be alright though.
Yeah.
You don't
I'm
want
fine.
that to
Question.
happen.
Air is going to ask a second question to the voice in his head. And the question is, when we arrive, if we go straight to the hangar, will we witness what we need to witness?
Yes.
Oh, you got my plan.
We just have to survive till then. What could be easier?
Yeah. We don't have to stop and talk to Mim. We can run straight to the hangar. And we'll see what we need to see.
Did Ragni say the station was already on alert?
Correct.
Okay, so they are aware, so they're not going to necessarily be caught by surprise per se. That could buy us time.
No, they're the epitome of the military spiritual complex, and they have eyes on the planet below. As the Orkneys horde erupt, then they have started to train their Heimdall missiles that they will launch from the station in an attempt to stop the horde reaching the station.
Not worried too much about the elevator, possibly.
Collateral
But
damage.
history teaches us they make it up no matter what, so it'll probably stay intact long enough for us to get up there.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Mm.
Maybe Gigi could jump on something.
That usually works.
So we can't smash a window because you guys will suffocate. But can we literally open the door and everybody just hold their breath while Ula and I step out and then close it, and then would life support take back over?
I will allow you to step out into the void under the protection of your gap suits, and sure, yeah, they can hold their breath momentarily and hold on to their garments that will presumably be whipping out and sucked towards the venting atmosphere.
Is the idea we just need to slow their ascent, and so we could just sort of step out and create a firing line? I know bullets don't kill them, but it does slow them down, right? So
That's what my thought was too, right? We go out with both of our machine guns and we, try to slow them down as much as possible for as long as we can.
I'm with you, Ula, if that's what you want to do.
Save these heroes. Yes.
I appreciate the gesture. I appreciate it. Heroic. I do want to just emphasize or just highlight one of the phrases that you just said there. Bullets only slow them down. So if the rest of our brain trust would like to just think about the implications of bullets only slowing them down, and I'll just let it percolate.
Oh, you mean arming ourselves? With flamers?
Yeah, with flamers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that none of us.
I'm sorry, am I the only one who brought a flamethrower from the armory that I've been holding on to this whole time?
I'm not the sharpest tack in the weapon drawer, but I'm pretty sure that we can't use a flamer in the void, though. Like if we stepped out.
Stop helping the GM. What are you doing?
Let's give these guys a chance at glory. They can blast down at the approaching hordes. Give me some damage rolls as your gunfire echoes out against the tide of Orcus. It is like shooting at an immense wave. These rime-jeweled and fiery monstrosities clambering towards you. Each bullet fells one and sends them tumbling back to the planet below.
20 damage from me.
It's almost impossible to miss.
So meanwhile, the rest of us are still in the elevator.
And whilst that's true, you also notice that pulling alongside you is the Falcon.
The one from the ground.
Yes, the very self-same ironwood ship that you piloted here that appears to be now manned by a group of Orkneys pirates who spin the ship around to train their dragon guns onto it.
If we die here, we're still right, and Gita is still wrong. We're not on the planet.
I got 23 for damage.
The two stalwart Gatsmen blast against the seething tide, firing with abandon into the bodies below. All it does is slowly stem the tide as the figures fall away from the tether. Others replace them. There are legion. Jeremy, please make a slight roll as the Falkir turns its dragon guns and howling dogs on you. A shell fires with unnerving precision towards the space elevator, catching the side that you are on. There is an immense explosion that threatens to topple you off and down through the atmosphere.
Maybe toppling. A total of 9.
Then, yes, without any protection, you plummet, passing through the thinning atmosphere, falling hundreds of meters, kilometers, and not even your suit can withstand the impact. You pass through the tide of Orcus, but ultimately hit into the Terminator line with a sickening crunch.
Hope he's okay.
Josh, again, you are surrounded by the Horde. I'm going to give you an 15 damage as they tear at your suit, ripping it apart, pulling the various pieces of armor to one side as their fangs and claws find their way through your defenses.
Are these, the Gapter armor, they're powered, right, by something?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to make that explode, short circuit the armor, and kind of use it as a set of grenades, as it were, to blow as many of these things off as possible?
You can rig it. You will short circuit it and potentially set up a cascade reaction that would cause an explosion and take anyone in short range out with you.
I will attempt to do that.
Okay, I will require a wits roll to do that in extremis. If you fail, you can always use that inspiration point.
Good point.
I rolled a 2, so I'm going to use that inspiration point.
Channeling the divine fury of Odin, you overcome your panic and your fumbling as you try to charge the suit to detonate it. Inspired by that divine force, you rig the armor and erupt in flame. The orcs around you tumble to the planet's surface with you, their howls diminishing as they fall back through the atmosphere.
A single Wilhelm scream.
Gentlemen, I Thank you for your glorious contribution. You have acquitted yourself with great heroism. We like people to go out swinging in a blaze of glory, and you've done yourself proud.
I feel I may have spoken too soon.
Still not on the planet.
Technically. Okay, I'm going to pitch an idea to everybody, and we'll get a consensus vote. But Steve, you can disguise self. Can you disguise other people at the same time?
Yes, you
Your
did
spell?
that before, didn't you?
Yes, I can disguise up to 5 people, including myself, for 1 hour.
Could you disguise
can
us all as
include-
Orkneas? And then we'll all go on top of this thing before it gets too high so we don't suffocate. We'll wave down the Falkir. We know the Falkir is going back to our time. And we'll just stow away on there for a while and let it just zip us back since our ship doesn't work anyway.
But then we don't witness the thing that Vim needs us to witness.
You don't know that. They might go there first.
This is batshit insane, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm having
Um,
trouble separating CJ and Gigi at this point. And
Although
others
this-
have said that about me and my character as well. So I recognize it.
I've said that about him a lot.
So the disguise can increase or decrease the target's apparent height or weight by up to 25%, including clothing, equipment, whatever. Would that be enough to get us all within more or less the right size range for an Orkneas? At least, believably.
There's a fair few flaws in that plan beyond the looking like an undead fire or ice giant.
Just because it's stupid, Ian? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's
I
like
just-
that's our thing, man.
You throw all the spaghetti at the wall and you see what sticks.
What I'm going to say is this, is the heroic sacrifice of the two Gapfarers has at least bought you plenty of time for the gap lifter to spiral up the cord, the tether, and to reach the station. You put enough distance between you and the ascending horde that you reach the station minutes before them, but crucial minutes, which will enable you to flee across the orbital station back towards the hangar where you left Ragni and the Falcon.
Oh, good. So you can cut that whole idea in post-production. Perfect.
Yes. They shall not have died in vain for your silly idea to jump on a ship again.
It basically was the same idea. It's just this time, everybody goes.
Something about the definition of insanity, but yeah.
So we make it back.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we're in the hangar.
Run straight to the hangar.
You are able to navigate your way through to the hangar, past the various laboratories of the Skuld. The Skuld themselves, the cowled techno-priests, are all agog. They are all running around fearful. They are all able to see you, but no one really pays you much attention. They're much more concerned now with the approaching catastrophe. The missiles are being fired, sirens are blaring from everywhere. No one stops to so much as give you a second glance, despite the fact that you are non-humans. They've not seen an Alpha, they've not seen Doc Alpha, but this is such a horrific occasion that they don't care at all about you running through their station.
Yeah, I'm
Should we be
sorry.
concerned that they can suddenly see us? That's new.
I'm sorry. Just a few minutes ago, Gigi suggests doing the crazy thing that he had done, and we all go, yeah, that might work. None of us goes, wait a minute. We already did that, and it was bad. Then we all just went, yeah, come here.
Yeah, well, the Min did call you Black Swans for a reason. In the hangar, I'm going to allow you to make a wits roll, those of you who are still there and surviving, because you are able to see one of the familiar faces that you saw last time, Bangzi of Valdison, wearing his green robes. He appears unperturbed by the unfolding catastrophe, and he is jumping onto a shuttle The shuttle is called the Gungnir.
23.
30-20.
10.
12.
So the ship is named for Odin's spear, a weapon that famously never misses its target. Bangsi Evalison powers up his thrusters, leaves the hangar on this carver, and heads directly towards the looming red sun.
Oh. Okay.
What did you figure out? Because I didn't figure it out.
It's the metaphor of the sphere. It never misses. He's aiming at the star that's about to go supernova. He causes the supernova.
To try and stop the Orkneys from spreading outside of the solar system.
Or to enhance the Ragnarok. We don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Or, the intention was good or bad. Because he's got those two dark wolves as his spirit companions, which was weird as hell.
Yeah.
Is he being influenced, controlled? Is he,
Aurora talked about the stripping of Hugin and Munin, but he also mentioned that they had inadvertently stripped the hounds of Vithril, Odin's personal pottery.
Gary and Frecky, then the ones that serve him.
Well, two wolves and two spirit wolves. There's a parallel there for sure.
Gary and Frecky translate to avarice, greed, hunger, voraciousness, and they cut Hugin and Munin loose. They inadvertently cut those two loose as well. And then Bangsi of Allison is prowling around with two spirit wolves. I'll leave it to you to draw your own conclusions. You can ponder on that. You look at your pondering faces on. You may rush towards the Halkir, but before doing so, I want a slight roll from each of you because the station is now ringing with detonations as warheads are exploding. Skulled with their runic shields and weaponry are attempting to defend the station as best they can, but you may well be hit by debris as you speed through the hangar.
I got a 12.
Ooh, 5.
Okay, 9 damage,
Well-
please, Taylor.
Okay.
12.
Good. CJ?
11.
You all wing your way through the station desperately, speeding through the hangar, sweating profusely as you rush towards the Falkir's extravehicular paw to jump on board. The Falkir does look like it has powered up. Mim has been true to its word, and now you have seen the crucial event. Now you have taken your judgment seat and stood witness. You are able to fly the ship. Ragni calls out to you and says,
Welcome aboard, and in the nick of time, too.
Say that again. Fire up the engines. We need to get out of here now.
she begins to do so, and as you enter into the Raven's Nest, who's going to be powering Thought and Memory Drive with her?
I can, or we had
I've done it in the past
you've done in the past.
with the skull.
I'm happy to do it. I'll do it this time.
Okay, you plug in the flight visor and your world goes dark as the Oblivion link kicks in. The magnetic field powers up with a hum, and Ragni turns to you and whispers,
I'm curious. What did Father have to say?
Was he burdened with glorious purpose?
The Vikings and Valkyries podcast is hammered together by a dedicated team of Skalds and Smiths. Please don't forget to like, share, and sacrifice to the old gods.